clean that up. You okay? That's unusual. That's a new one. So anyway, I'm David, Dr. David Coe. This is my mum, Eleanor. We're reading my book, Thriving at Nature's Pace. It's a new book about a new approach to climate change. And we've been around different aspects of it. Mostly the book is a proposal to allow leaving oil and gas and coal in the ground to create a new currency called Thrive Coins. And the idea is if you're working on a project, you can partner with a government that produces these so that you can be a partner for a share of the ownership, of some of the actual oil and gas and coal that they may have in the ground. So if you're in the UK, it might be in the North Sea. And for that, you then have a choice of what you can do. And one thing you can do with it that's proposed in the book is that you actually give it back to nature in exchange for Thrive Coin. So nature now owns the oil and gas and the coal, and you get the Thrive Coins, and you can use that as a currency for the project that you're using on, for the people that you may have. It becomes like a local currency, and the government becomes a partner in all of that as a way in which we can actually build the future that we want. So you can have a direct say and a direct way to contribute to that. And nature becomes immediately a part of it, an integral part of it by giving back to it. So that's the idea. But that obviously then links on to investments and how people can invest and those sort of things. And this is the section on how investments work, and it's going to lead to how it connects up with that. And this section here, this episode here, we're going to talk about who are the investment managers. And probably just enough to go through. So who are the investment managers? The investment numbers in aggregate are large, so it's helpful to know some tangible measures of size. The world's largest economy is the US. The GDP per person is $80,000. This, very roughly speaking, is the average amount of money that each person transacts with each year. This includes the salary they receive and the spending they do. For example, these transactions may be to buy sandwiches, pay for services, or earn. When this amount is multiplied by the number of people in the country, it gives the country's total GDP. For the US, this is $27 trillion. In comparison, China is the next largest economy and has a GDP of $19 trillion. Indonesia's GDP, with 277 million people, is just over $1 trillion. And Egypt, with 110 million people, has a GDP of $400 billion. In comparison, the global investment community made about $10 trillion in profit on its investments in 2024. That means the ultimate asset owners and beneficiaries had their wealth increased collectively by $10 trillion. If this profit is compared with the amount of oil and gas and coal that's used, it can provide a perspective on the power of this money. The world uses about 80 billion barrels of oil equivalent in oil and gas and coal each year. The amount of energy used from each of these three are similar. Since the Paris Agreement, this amount has grown by about 1% each year. The price of oil is about $70 a barrel. That includes all the costs of extraction and transport from the oil fields to the various collection points. The extraction cost differs from place to place. It can be as low as under $10 for the most easily accessible oil to over $50 for the most difficult to access oil. Considering this cost of extraction as, say, half the price of a barrel of oil, it means that the cost of buying a year's worth of oil as Thrive contracts to sell to nature is about $1 trillion. This is 1/10 of the profit from the investments in 2024. The costs of gas and coal are similar in magnitude. Coal is cheapest at about $10 a barrel equivalent. Gas is about the same as oil. Crudely and conservatively estimating the cost of Thrive contracts for oil and gas and coal as the same, the cost of 1 year's worth of Thrive contracts to sell to nature would be $2 to $3 trillion. That's on a par with the money needed for climate finance, in line with the flow from the Great Wealth Transfer, and is less than a quarter of the investment profits in 2024. Thus, this means that the investment industry has the capacity to work on behalf of its ultimate beneficiaries with governments, businesses, and communities to buy Thrive contracts, sell to nature for Thrive coins, and invest the money to deliver the climate financing. The current size of oil and gas and coal reserves is about 45 years, and the size of coal reserves is 3 times greater at 120 years. Investing through Thrive contracts to not extract the oil and gas and coal has the capacity realistically and significantly to bring an early end to their reign. This mechanism can take the world to the energy transition without the reserves being exhausted. The choice to do this lies in the hands of the ultimate beneficiaries of the investment money. Importantly, these ultimate beneficiaries are all going to change from the current baby boomers to the younger generations. It's therefore in the hands of the millennials, the Gen Zs, and the Gen Alphas, maybe some Gen Xs. As part of this, selling a year's worth of oil and gas and coal through Thrive contracts back to nature will mint 80 billion Thrive coins a year. At a potential value of $1 a coin, this is about the amount of UK sterling coins and notes in circulation. This can be distributed to and earned by people and used by businesses to further support their innovations. If, for example, the millennials, Gen Zs, and Gen Alphas can persuade the likes of Samsung or Xiaomi, the world's 2 top smartphone manufacturers, and reliant on these young people to be their customers, to accept Thrive coins for their products, this would create an incentive for everyone to be involved. Since smartphones are ubiquitous, the effect would be transformative, especially for communities that have wealth levels that are below the level where investment money can reasonably reach. This is a problem where investment firms are too large. Then, small investment appropriate for communities are too tiny for the firms to manage cost effectively. When a major goods manufacturer or retailer accepts Thrive coins, whatever the value of exchange they may choose for themselves, the Thrive coins become useful as a currency for communities everywhere. This is a global currency and retains its value everywhere. It disrupts the situation where the remote villager has no access to so-called hard currency and enables her with financial purchasing power outside of fiat money controls. This opens up the opportunity to innovate, invest, and build social capital at every level, and is perhaps the surest way for modern society to remain robust in the face of climate change. For the investment management community, banking energy savings through Thrive contracts as part of investing is a purely commercial decision. Investment managers are operating consistently with their mandates to maximize the return for their investors. For the governments, this can achieve the financing that they are after. For entrepreneurs, selling Thrive contracts to nature to keep oil and gas and coal in the ground will drive demand for their innovations. For businesses, Thrive coins give them additional tools to develop customer loyalty by extending the benefits of their innovations. This is how investments can be pivoted to achieve the climate financing ambitions. It does not require international agreements, it does not impose additional taxes, it does not need subsidies, and it doesn't need any new laws or regulations to be passed. It is simply a choice for investment managers, and at the risk of being repetitive, the Great Wealth Transfer would give the younger generation the agency to make this come about. Having appreciated the scope of what is possible, how would the investment managers actually go about doing this? So that's the one for the next episode. We can pause here, Mum. Are you okay? You're falling asleep a bit?
唔係啊，我聽到，但係你點樣知道用咗幾多啫
So
？How
Mum is
can you measure how much you are taking?
not taking out or committing.
Yeah.
How much you are committing. So Mum is quite rightly, and it is a big question. And I think the point of this is these are physical things. So you can start by places where you're not, you know there's a mine, there's a seam of coal and so on. And that's where you start and you say, we're not going to use that. So you can start simply along there. We still need them today, so we can continue with that, but we're drawing a line behind it to say that's where we're going to stop. So then we can mark how much of those we're going to stop, how thick that line is. And each one of these makes that line thicker and thicker. And then, of course, that allows us time to really measure when we need to. So we don't have to know all those things before we start, because we're marking behind what we're currently doing to the things that we say, okay, that's the one we're not going there, and we can mark it there, and we know, and that's how we can go about it.
So we don't do anything leave that over.
Leave that over there. That we're not going to take up over there. We're just going to let the trees grow, let the grass grow, or whatever it is that goes on there. And that's what happens there. And we put a markup, we put it on the map, and we put it on our coins. You know, it's just like the coin at the moment has the, you know, the English coin had England on there a while back. So it's like, you know, that's what it is. So you can see it, and everyone can see it.
So we are using whatever we create now,
Yes.
nowadays.
And we have to learn how not to use more. So we give ourselves time. It's like with your toothbrush. You know, when you said, you know, I'll wait till the electricity in it, stored in it, finishes. And in the meantime, while we do that, we're going to learn different things. We're going to discover other ways to do it. So we give ourselves that time. And so the investments can help us discover different ways while it's drawing that line at the same time. And this way, the investment is motivated because it's saying we're drawing that line. So I want some great ideas of what we can do instead and how we can stay here. And that's kind of the approach. Good question. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.